The first thing that you should know about this gameplay overview is that it is not the full instructions. The full instructions will come with your box of Twisted Skies, and you and the other players will need to look over them and make sure that you're familiar with all the concepts and nuances of the game. To get the game set up for play, first you'll need to separate your Catalyst cards and your Manifest cards into two separate decks. Place the two decks on the table with enough room besides them for a discard pile. You may also want to place the ship deck out there because occasionally you'll need to access the ship cards. Once you have the two decks set up, draw Catalyst cards until you reveal 4 mission cards. Lay them out on the table in the first mission row. You might have to do this for a minute and go through a few interrupts. Once you have your mission row set up, you can go ahead and draw your hand. Every player should draw 4 Manifest cards. For a faster game, have every player draw a couple of Catalyst cards as well, but only if you want to get things really rolling quick. To complete setup, everyone at the table will need to pick a ship card. You can either do these randomly, or choose the one you like, depending on what you and the other players want to do. Selection of ship card is very important because it determines how many crew cards you can have in play, how many tech cards you can attach to the ship, and how many victory points it's going to take you to win the game. So be choosy when picking your airship. The first thing that any player does in their turn is called the first drop. Dropping is basically taking a card from your hand and placing it on the table. You do this with crew cards, which are your brave adventurers on your airship, and tech cards, which are the equipment that your ship and your crew carries when they go about their adventures. To equip a tech card to a crew or ship card, merely place it underneath it, with the bottom part of the tech card sticking out so that the bonuses to combat and the scroll credit value of the equipment is showing. The two game terms that you need to know immediately are ready and exhaust. Every player readies their cards at the first of their turn, and the ready term means that your card is upright, whereas the exhaust term means that your card has been turned sideways. Various mechanics use these two terms in the game, turning cards upright or sideways. We'll talk more about that later when we get to the mission attempt phase. After you've done your drop, we move on to the open trade section of the game. In this part of your turn, you can openly trade cards from your hand as long as they're Manifest cards with any other player at the table. You can also negotiate other details, such as, I want your help in a mission later, or I'll trade this with you if you'll go get me a Coke. Trades between cards are done on ratios that are controlled in the game, 1 for 1, 2 for 1, or 3 for 1. No one's ever allowed to trade for greater than 3 for 1. And this is the fun part of the game where you can be openly negotiating all kinds of crazy conditions on trades and future gameplay. After open trading is done, the next phase of the game is called drawing a Catalyst card. This is where things really start hopping in the game. When you draw a Catalyst card, if it's an interrupt, it'll tell you what to do. You either put it in play or put it in your hand. Interrupts represent all the crazy things that can happen in the multiverse that might negatively or positively affect your crew. The other card that you may draw with your Catalyst draw is a mission card. And if mission cards are drawn, they automatically go on the table where everybody can see what the criteria of the mission is and how many victory points it makes available. Mission cards also have bounties on them, so when you complete them you not only get victory points, but you might also get to draw additional Manifest cards or even more Catalyst cards to put in your hand to screw over the other players. The next part of a player's turn is called the mission attempt. This is where you, as an airship captain, attempt to take on one of the missions on the table to gain victory points and hopefully a bounty to help you win the game. Missions all have requirements that allude to the keywords on your crew cards. When you send crew out to attempt the mission, you exhaust them to show that they're committed. This will be important should other players play interrupts while you're attempting to complete the mission. Should you meet all the mission criteria with your exhausted cards and don't get any interrupts, you immediately get to pick up the mission and add it to your victory total. Of course, the other players aren't just going to let you complete that mission and get those victory points for free, so they're going to call out interrupt and play interrupt cards on your mission attempt. And these cards can be anything from 8 men in battle armor to an aerial ambush of your airship, and they'll define what kind of combat rolls you need to make to resolve them and the negative effects of suffering the aerial consequences. To resolve most interrupts, you'll need to make a combat roll, either a personal combat roll made by your crew cards or a ship combat roll made by your ship. To work through the interrupts one at a time, merely point to the card that's going to resolve the interrupt, make the combat roll, including the bonuses from attack, and then, if there are negative effects, suffer them. Remember, you have to satisfy the consequences of the interrupt card with the committed exhausted cards put into the mission attempt first, and then from your hand. This means that interrupts can be very devastating, as they can chew through not only the cards that you have on the table, but the ones that you have in reserve for future turns. And if cards are taken off the table that were attempting the mission in this manner, you fail the mission by not having the necessary keywords anymore to complete it and claim the victory points. After mission attempts are completed, the next phase of the game is called blind trade. Like open trading, you swap cards with other people at the table, but unlike open trading, you cannot discuss any of the details of the card. You must literally just offer a card saying that this card is definitely worth 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. Come on, man, you know you want this. And that's about as far as the details can go. This is your opportunity to secretly aid or possibly screw over another player at the table, but be careful. If you get too catty in these trades, it will come back to haunt you when future players don't want to trade with you anymore. Should you find yourself in this position, all players are always allowed to blind trade in this phase 1 for 1 with the manifest deck. Blind trading is also the other part of the game where you're allowed to trade catalyst cards, which you are not allowed to trade in the open trading phase. The last phase of a player's turn is called second drop. After you've blind traded, you take a look at your hand, select one tech or crew card, and place it on the table just like in the first drop, either putting crew into play or attaching tech to your ship or one of your crew cards. Once this is done, make sure that you resolve any at-drop abilities that happen from cards hitting the table before you end your turn, such as taking a card away from another player or getting a free draw off the deck, which some cards will do when they come into play. Be ready to ready your cards at the start of your next turn and start the entire process all over again. Winning the game is quite simply a matter of getting enough victory points to match the victory total on your ship card. Victory happens at the moment that you receive enough points to equal the total. So, if you're in your mission attempt phase, you find the mission that you need to achieve your total and you go for it, be prepared for other players to throw an interrupt on you. But if you can satisfy them and place the mission into your total, you will instantly win the game, and the adoration and admiration of Steam Plus the Multiverse have been truly epic. Remember, Twisted Skies is a game about fun and social interaction. It's a game where you should enjoy some time with your friends around a table and have a few laughs. Hyper-competitivity or uncivil behavior is not to be tolerated. This is a neo-Victorian game after all. Let's have a little bit more civility. And that's an overview of Twisted Skies. Of course, as I said earlier, there are more complex concepts and rules to the game, a few more fine details that make it even more exciting and entertaining.